Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Smart Outsourcing Talks. And today we are going to speak about aligning teams and client experiences, the consistency problem inside the accounting firms. Okay, so let me start with something I've seen across almost every firm. They are unhappy because of 10 small inconsistencies that nobody notices. And by the time firm notices, the client already has discovered that. So, client experience is one of the most talked about things in accounting firms. Everyone wants to improve. Everyone says it matters, but very firm actually knows where it breaks. And because the truth is, client experience doesn't break in one place, it starts with small leakages and quietly across the teams, across the expectations. And most firms only see it when the clients feels it, okay, and that's too late. So today we are going to unpack the invisible problem of inconsistency. And joining me today is Deborah Defer. So welcome, Deb, to this show.
Thanks, Maanoj. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So, you have seen the industry evolve over the decades, and more importantly, you have helped firms actually implement change and just not talk about it. So, before we go uh, on a Q&A, let me just introduce Deb to our viewers today. So, she comes with 3 decades of accounting experience. Deb is widely recognized as one of the profession's most seasoned and impactful practitioners, regularly presenting at almost every accounting industry conferences and consulting with organizations to streamline workflow, modernize technology stacks, and optimize their operational performance. She has been instrumental in guiding firms as they adopt modern platforms, improve processes, expand advisory services, and scale practice models, helping them turn strategy into execution rather than just in aspirations. So, Deb has also repeatedly recognized for her contributions to the profession, including multiple pro advisor awards and thought leadership roles that influences how firms approach cash advisory and growth. So Deb is leading industry practice at Woodard, and she is the director of client accounting and advisory services. So Deb, welcome to this smart outsourcing talk.
Well, I'm so happy to be here, Maanoj, and I love the topic. And I like to call it, when we talk about client experience, I like to call it, what does the client journey feel like?
Yeah. So okay, so let's make this real. Okay, so a client gets onboarded smoothly. Okay, and the first few weeks are just great. Okay, and then things start slipping, not dramatically, just small things here and there. And that's usual and where the story begins. So in your experience, where do you typically see the first cracks in the delivery?
So, I think you have to start from the very beginning. When we talk about onboarding a client, there has to be a very consistent process on the way we onboard clients. So those little things that happen can be avoided right from the start. And I think a lot of it comes with consistency. And, you'll hear me say this quite frequently. If we want to scale, if we want to be extremely efficient, we have to standardize. And I like to kind of follow that 80-20 rule, where 80% of it is really standard, and then we have this 20% that could be outside the scope. It's a little things.
Yeah.
Right. Here's the deal. The number one enemy of the efficiencies, standardization, if we have too much variation within a given client, these inconsistencies are going to happen. So let's fine tune the process right from the beginning. We don't want to do it the client way. It can't be done the client way. We have to have a firm way of doing things, and we have to stay consistent with it. And I think that's right out of the starting gate when you onboard. If you can identify what the client needs are, it will help tremendously.
And how do these internal misalignments shows up externally to the client? Okay, so um, so right now, we talk about inconsistencies within, and even if we bring the consistencies, but there always going to be some alignment, misalignment, and this is especially when the new client is onboarded, both the parties are not kind of a settle down. So there is a lot of chances that in the beginning this misalignments would happen. So in your experience, how does it show up externally to the client? And
Yeah, some of the things that I've seen, number one is expectation. We've told the client that we're going to have the books closed by the 5th of the month, but yet the client hasn't given us the bank statement or the credit card statement, or they haven't provided us with a fixed asset or purchase agreements, but yet they expect us to close by the end of the month. So some of the things that really, the little things that start to surface is the fact that a client will be like, well, where's my financials? Or why aren't we closed for the month? Just simple questions like that, of missing a deadline because we haven't had the follow through either on the client part, something's left open, haven't received it. And I think that's when those little things need to be addressed right away, because if we don't address them, they're going to exasperate and they're going to get worse next month and next month. And then we have an ultimate disaster. Yeah. So sometimes we have to press reset.
And in your experience, so how do you bridge this, the initial months, where expectations have been set? Many of the times what happens is that there is a communication protocols, which a client might follow different protocols and an accounting firm might follow different protocols. And a lot of time we've seen that, okay, if you send one reminder, two reminder, and the firm says, okay, maybe the client has not sent, and client is expecting that, okay, till I send you, you keep sending me the reminders and escalations. so how do you get onto this common platform of understanding?
So leveraging technology can be of huge benefit, really. I think of platforms, and I try to stay system agnostic. There are some that are better than others, but I try to use tools like a Financial Sense or a Canopy or a Carbon or a Jetpack workflow or even an Empire Suite, right? There's several of them out there. Keeper, formerly, well, now it's called Double, formerly Keeper. If you can leverage tools to be able to send those reminders to the clients that you're still waiting for things and that task can't be closed until you've received those items back, it alleviates a lot of back and forth in emails that gets lost in translation with your clients. So I think one of the best ways to make sure that we, one, communicate up front, right? What's going to happen, what the expectations are, and walk them through how that technology is going to benefit them and not be a deterrent. The technology is there to be an aid, and we have to be able to help our clients understand how to use it. I'm a tech nerd, Maanoj. I'm going to bring in the tech because I know that it's going to be of great benefit, but I also know that I like change. I like to try new things. Sometimes clients, they're very apprehensive. They have trepidation on trying new things. So it's really important for folks to test these pieces of technology before you just roll it out to the broader audience.
Yeah. And, what I've seen is in terms of technology, it also sets your processes right, because many times, you don't have a process, but then when you implement any piece of technology, then you'll have to follow those processes. So I've seen that it sets you for a process as well. But tell me, what are those early signs that you see in an accounting firm where inconsistency starts crippling up, and then the whole the client, the team gets little dejected and stuff like that. So so what are those early signals of inconsistencies that you have seen in your experience, and how do you curb that?
So, first of all, this is so critically important. One of the things when I'm working with firms is I'm like, okay, if you're a guy, hold up 2 fingers for the Boy Scout honor. And if you're a girl, hold up the 3 fingers for the Girl Scout honor. What we need to do is get very, very consistent with having our team members read the statement of work.
Okay.
Our nomenclature needs to be extremely consistent. The pricing to the statement of work to what the workflow looks like and that process. If you can have that nomenclature consistent, then this is where I see firms falling down. They haven't built out good written processes. They get a little bit chicken or the egg. Do I pick the tech or do I write the process? Or do I write the process, then I pick the tech? Like, what these firms have to do is they're simultaneous. They need to work together in tandem. And it's just like CAS and tax go together like peanut butter and jelly, right? They make a great sandwich. So it's the same thing with processes and technology. You have to have the processes and you have to understand the processes, but you have to understand the technology and how you can join them. And so this is where firms, I see a lot of things surfacing up, is that they haven't had consistent nomenclature from pricing to statement of work to the workflow. Firms haven't mandated that a staff person read the statement of work so they understand when things fall out of scope. They haven't leveraged technology to identify when things are out of scope, and firms are leaving a lot of dollars on the table that they're not billing for. That's one area. But if we were to back up and use, like really get into a magnifying glass and look at what causes all that, from a little detail of not meeting a deadline, well, the client gets frustrated, but the firm's already frustrated. And then you have extremely poor communication between the two. And then you don't want to pick up the phone and call the client because you don't want to get yelled at, or the client doesn't want to pay their bill. So now you can't do the work because client's not paying the bill, and it turns into chaos and it exasperates itself. It just keeps going. So when things surface, as small and as little as they are, communicating, bringing it to the surface, not pushing it under the rug, those are how you're going to help the firm make sure they're successful.
Yeah, this is absolutely an important point. At FinSmart, we have seen this very often. So like we have a bookkeeping seat and then we have a senior accounting seat. Most of the folks, client starts with kind of a bookkeeping seat, and then over a period of time they change the scope, and we don't even know, right? And the team working also feels, okay, it's just little additional work. But at some time, what happens, there's a complex work and they falter, and then client comes back to us saying that your resources are not going good. When you look at the statement of works, this was the scope never defined, never discussed, and you're not even subscribed for that, right? If you want this kind of a work, then it needs to be done by the senior person. So you are right, it needs to be aligned, the scope of work.
And too many firms, this is what I've seen over my tenure, is that too many firms see other firms, right? Because we all want to keep up with the Joneses, and they see other firms that have opted to use offshoring, a company like FinSmart, but yet they don't get prepared in time, and you're right, they're not aligned. So they haven't worked out the details before they even go to offshore. What hours are the folks going to work? Are they going to have direct client level of work? Are they going to be doing? All of those things need to be extremely well defined, and then you can actually go to market using an offshoring team. But if you don't, you're not going to be consistent if you don't have it defined. And I've seen a lot of firms fall, I don't want to say hundreds, but I've seen firms fall on their face and get egg all over their face and not be prepared, thinking that they're going to save all this money, low cost labor. That's the motivator, instead of taking advantage of maybe a slightly shift in hour change, or having those folks pick up some of the things. Maybe they're really good at the technology and you need that technologist, right? So where your needs are, writing out those processes, making sure that you have your strategic direction aligned
Yeah.
before you even do day one.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we help a lot of times many of the firms in doing this assessment, early. So we are on the same platform, they kind of prepare. So we have a very rugged onboarding process, actually, FinSmart 14-step onboarding process, where so we have like we define pretty much everything, right from how the data would get transferred, and what are the communication protocols, what is even the platform used for communication. Sometimes you are using Slack and then emails and then Carbon or Canopy, and then the same communication is floated overall. So we, in the onboarding, even we say, okay, which kind of communication would be on which platform, for people to kind of onboard. So this details helps. But coming back to your point, like, how does a firm align everything? You spoke about the pricing, the statement of works, and the delivery and reporting before it's too late, and it reaches to a point where you said that client would say, okay, you deliver first, and the firm would say, no, you pay first.
So some of the best advice that I got over in my career, especially when I stepped into my role at BDO, leading the tech team for our outsourcing practice, I was always of the firm belief for years in my younger years of give it to the masses, find something really good and just push it out to the masses. Well, I was wrong. And we learn way more from failures than we do success. And what I learned was taking a subset of clients and walking them through a strategic plan that has been laid out, and using a small subset as a case study, and making sure that we're proving out the concept, and making sure that we're working through any of those hiccups that I would say could occur, and really fine-tuning everything is the best advice that I can give to firms. I learned the hard way, and which is great, because I learned a ton from, falling down, skinning your knees, like, learning to ride a bike, right? You have to fall off so you know how to get back on. And so understanding that taking that subset will make a big difference. I know firms need to move fast. CAS is the fastest growing business line in these firms today. They have real issues with capacity management. They have issues with pricing. They have inconsistencies. They're doing traditional bookkeeping and not really scaling and not servicing clients to what they need. And they're not able to give them the value of these advisory services because they're so stuck in traditional work. So taking a small subset, working through exactly what those processes are. All right, I want to, and identifying it, I want to get our month-end closes to be by the 6th of every month. Or my A clients that need it early, they may have bank covenant things that they need to meet, right? So taking that subset, taking a few individuals, building out that process. And oh, by the way, when I put a team together to do the pilot, Maanoj, I always put a Debbie Downer on the team, because if Debbie Downer can adopt it, you're going to get broad adoption across. So you want to have the negatives with the positives, because it only makes everything better.
Sure. So what you are really saying is inconsistency is not really a quality problem, right? It's more of a problem of alignment, right? From your scope of work to pricing to delivery to having the right processes and technology in place to kind of meet those stats.
Yeah, and there has been some quality, but I think the problem is with quality is that we don't properly train. Too many times in these firms, we see too many bottlenecks. So for example, they may have a ton of capacity at the associate or offshore staff level to do some of this work, but the managers or the seniors aren't training properly. And so when they get the work back, it's not what they expected. And then they just go do it themselves instead of training properly, because we're all under these billable. You got to get your time, instead of investing in the people, making sure they're trained properly, making sure that what you expect the outcome to look like. Then you're not going to have these quality issues if you train your folks the proper way. So I don't so much think it's quality as it is training.
Yeah, sure. And Deb, coming to many of our times, when we set up a process, people say it kills autonomy to an extent, right? Because and that's where it gets tricky, right? So leaders see inconsistencies, though they introduce more structures, and suddenly the team starts feel restricted, right, by the structures. So how do you solve this problem? Why do team resist structure even they know they need it?
It's communication, Manoj. Like too many times we have too much communication breakdown, and we just don't help ourselves if we can't communicate properly. We have to understand that everybody's human. People make mistakes. We have to be able to work through those mistakes. We have to be willing to invest in those people. And if we can't invest in our people and our processes and our technology, you're not going to get consistency. You're not going to get an incredible client journey. You're not going to get the client experience. Your teams are not going to be aligned.
So how do we set up a workflows, or how do we design a workflow that supports thinking and just not replace it through the process robots?
I wish I could say there's like one big secret sauce, right? But there isn't. Every firm is slightly different. Every firm maybe has different industries that they're focused in. Maybe the firm has different technology expertise they focus in. So I think it's important to have those industries identified, have the technology identified for those industries, making sure that you're working with an outsourcing partner that has subject matter expertise in those given areas. And then you put together those steps on what you have to have. At Woodard, we have this thing called the 7 ideals, right? You want the ideal engagement and you want the ideal services, but every firm is going to be a little bit different. So our outsourcing partners are going to have to identify themselves as to what they want to focus on so that they can stand out with a given firm. Not every outsourcing partner is a fit for every firm. It's just there's square pegs, and square pegs don't go into round holes. So you have to be selective.
And how does structure actually free the teams? So can you give some experience that you have come across? Many of the times I've seen that people feel restricted to the processes, but actually processes frees them. Because lot of things that they have to depend on their judgment, that's just gone, and they are more freer. So do you have any stories to share here?
Stories to share. Well, I'm working with about up to 50 firms now, Manoj. And so,
my God, really?
Yeah. And so I'm a big fan of the pod model where, and the industry models. Adams Brown is a good example of a firm that was one of the first, I call racehorses out of the gate, right? They really focused in on what industries they wanted to get really, really good at. And now what they're having to do over there, and I'm not working with them right now, but I watched these firms, right? And see any of theirs. But when you find they've subject matter expertise, they built the structure, they have their hierarchy in order, and then they have to fine tune. You got to fine tune the tech. You got to fine tune the process, because if you follow that, you can have 80% of everything standard for the firm, and then you take that 20% and you fine tune it for a pod or an industry. And so Baker Tilly did a great job combining CAS and tax, right? They go to market as a one-stop shop. Every firm is doing something unique, but CAS is a part of it.
Anything do you see which is should be like a non-negotiable versus what could be really flexible? When you define any kind of a process.
Non-negotiable. Boy, I've never thought about it that way, Maanoj. That's a really good question. I guess a non-negotiable would be, boy, I can't think of anything that's non-negotiable. Non-negotiable would be doing it the client way. I think that's the number one non-negotiable.
Sure.
We are not going to do things the client way. We're going to do it the firm way. The other one I can say from a non-negotiable that I see pretty consistently is, which is sad for firms, when they have multiple locations, they say, oh, well, we do it the way this Office 1 does it, and we do it this way that Office 2 does it, and we do it this way that Office 3 does it. No. That is non-negotiable. We are going to do it the firm way, and then you're going to get those consistencies.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So, so what you're saying is that firms should have their own way, of doing things, so that becomes easier for teams to adopt, and kind of deliver the quality as compared to setting up processes for each clients, and which is very difficult to deliver.
It is very difficult to deliver. And if a client asks you to do it their way, you have two choices. You either say, I'm sorry, it doesn't fit in our model, and please, conform. Or it's going to cost you 5 times what you're paying right now if you want us to identify and have an individual to do it your way. I was working with a firm that the client said to them, I don't want to use a bill.com or a ramp or an approval workflow for my payables. I want you to keep check stock, and I want you to print my checks with a printer and deliver me the unsigned checks to my office. No way. No way. There's so much risk in that, right? But there are clients that will ask you to do that, and you have to set those boundaries. You have to mitigate risk. You have to know what swim lanes people sit in.
Yeah. Okay. Let us look at another aspect of it, that is quality control, right? And in many firms, quality control is basically, it's like a damage control. Okay, it happens at the end when the cost is already paid for, right? So why do firms treat quality as an afterthought? Why it is not kind of an inbuilt into the processes?
Well, I think for consistency reasons, Maanoj, I think you're going to see larger firms invest more dollars in quality control, especially firms that do audit work. They have the resources, and they're going to invest in that, and they're extremely risk adverse. On the flip side, you're going to have some of these smaller firms that I appreciate so much because they're extremely nimble, but their risk aversion is much less than a larger firm. And so again, the managing partner of a firm is the one that ultimately has to make that decision and drive the ship on where those boundaries lie within an organization. We're accountants, and I'm still a practicing accountant, right? Joe loves the fact that I manage 12 clients on my own monthly because I test the tech, and it keeps me very relevant in this space. So I know what's out there, and I'm going through a WISP. I have Rightworks going to come in and do a WISP on my computer, and I'm one of me, right? There's one of me. I may need one of you soon if I keep growing the way I am, but I got a day job.
You're happy to help.
The point is that you have to be self-aware. You have to understand where the risks are coming in. Right. I have a client that I'm working with right now that I introduced Shortcut AI to them to build out WIP schedules for construction. Typically took us 10 to 12 hours to build the WIP schedule. We were able to do it with Shortcut AI in less than 10 minutes, right? So understanding though, because I had to talk to the client, I insisted they buy the professional enterprise version. I didn't want them using a free version. I didn't want business strategies out there for it to be used for remodeling. So I think we have to educate ourselves so that we can help mitigate the risk no matter what size we are, and that we get quality product. But we're accountants. We're looked to for accuracy. That's what an accountant is. We produce financial statements. We understand the books. We understand how to help businesses grow and generate wealth for themselves and for future generations. We have to understand the mechanics of it, and that quality of that work and the accuracy of it is something ingrained in us from the very beginning.
Right.
So sometimes I feel it gets short-sighted because we naturally think that it should be top of mind for everyone all the time.
And how does this change when you are operating at a scale, right? Because the risk would just increase, right? And I think one of the things could be that's where AI or technology could really help.
Oh, AI is going to have a huge impact, absolutely huge impact. Like, I think about the things that I do every day. So I love Chat GPT. I'm a big fan. I've named my Chat GPT. His name is Sam.
Oh, wow.
And I talk to Sam all day long, and I get responses. My husband's always like, "Who are you talking to?" Sam is my virtual husband. I yell at him, and he doesn't yell back, which is fantastic, and I love it.
He's a good husband.
Yeah. Here's the thing: if you can leverage this technology to your benefit, when I look at our generations today, so many young folks are stuck behind their cell phone, and they don't know how to communicate like this. So I don't want to say that it's important that you're using ChatGPT consistently, writing your papers, doing your presentations, but you can leverage it as a tool. And that's where we have to get the balance, because we have seen with our younger generations a lack of communication. I personally think that every senior in high school should have to work at McDonald's or Walmart in order to get their diploma. They got to learn how to deal with people.
Right. Yeah. And in your experience, I have two questions regarding the AI. Let me talk first. Where do you see the actual usage of AI when in the client accounting services? What are the use cases that you've seen?
So I've seen it multiple ways. The tool I was talking about earlier, Shortcut AI, I've seen massive amount of data loaded in there, and it produced an executive summary and AR reports, AP reports, cash flow. I've also seen tools like Aider AI that Carbon just purchased that can do some pretty slick things, like use my face, put it in a video, and it goes into the accounting system and realizes that my client's not going to make payroll next week, and it can prepare an entire dialogue for me. I embed it in my Outlook, and I can send that me in a picture talking to my client through an email. Do you know how much time that saves? Too many times, and this is so true, Maanoj, too many times we have to call the client and tell them we got a problem. Houston, we got a problem. And we get on a call with these clients, and then we're having to talk them off the ledge, and they're panicking, they're freaking out. We're on the phone for an hour and a half or two. They're not going to pay us for that time. We're there as their psychologists, helping walk them off the ledge. But if I can use a tool like Aider AI and send that email ahead of time that says, "Hey, client, you may not make payroll next week. I'm concerned. You need to collect these couple of accounts receivable." I'm giving solutions to them. I'm also pointing that says they can book a time with me. I'm in control, and I can control my time so that I can do more with less. And it just makes a big difference. So those are some of the things they're going to be very impactful, and our folks aren't going to be replaced by AI. I'm not concerned about that. What I am concerned about will be replaced by people that do.
Yeah. And with the more deployment of AI, how do you see that the folks would be able to, kind of adopt the newer skill sets? Because till now you have been managing humans. Now you'll have to manage humans, plus you'll have to manage AI agents. So, it's a different role. I mean, so, what skill sets would be required to kind of manage both of them?
Well, I think it's super important for firms to have an AI strategy. I know Heather Satterley taught at one of the BDO area meetings a 12-month plan on an AI strategy of really rolling it out. And it's just like your employees. You're going to create a handbook. You're going to have an AI handbook. and they're going to work together. And if you don't have an AI strategy, or an organization hasn't even started to think about an AI strategy, they already missed the bus. They better get on a jet plane and hurry up.
So one is, of course, to have a strategy, but how do you develop the skill sets required for managing AI?
Again, it's hiring the right people. We're going to fall back to people, processes, and technology. It all falls back to those three things. You're going to have to hire people that understand the components, how it works, so that we can train and invest in our folks.
Okay. All right. Coming to the next agenda is that, how do you align the teams around the client promises? We begin with, the complete alignment picture, right? So, every firm has a client promise, but inside the firm, the promise is interpreted differently by different people a lot of times, right? So, and that's where the consistency breaks, right? So how do you align them? How do leaders make the client promise real for their clients?
It's communication. It's all about communication. Listen, you got to lay out, what are we experts at? What are we going to perform for these clients? How are we going to get it done? And write those processes out so that when you do bring on a new hire, that they have a roadmap to follow. To me, it sounds so simple, but too oftentimes we go rogue and everybody does it their own way. And we need to get really aligned and do it the firm way.
Yeah. And, so you said the role of communication, which is, extremely important, but what changes when the team stops guessing what good communication looks like?
Ask me the question again. I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah. So I'm saying that, just twisting it ahead. So basically, how do the communication rhythm set in to make sure that, both the parties are aligned onto that?
Well, again, it follows the statement of work that we have written what we're doing. So we're aligned, and then we meet with them consistently and we communicate it. Too many times we make assumptions, and assuming is not a good thing. My dad always taught me that. You never assume, and you get clarification around things. So documentation, communication, reiteration. They say that you have to say something to someone 7 times before they actually remember. So it's repeat, rinse, repeat, repeat, repeat.
Bang on. We say that, assumption is a sin. We should never do it. So I think this is where everything comes together. Consistency is often misunderstood as control many of the times, but actually it's a leadership. So if a firm leader wants to improve consistency in the next 90 days, okay, give them some tips, okay, how to get started.
Call in a third party. Call in a consultant to help you get it laid
Calling
out.
Deborah Defer.
Yeah, there you go. But honestly, Maanoj, too many times, because we're so pulled in so many directions, we're so busy working in the business instead of on the business. And if you can pull in some third-party resources to help you, it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, that's great. And just give a little brief about, what you have been doing, how you have been advising, the clients on the cash side of it, right? So.
Yeah, we engaged with firms for the full gamut. We've built out a thing called the Did It's program, which I love country music. So the tagline is, you did it and you got her done. And so it's a 4-stage process. We do a discovery, we do a design, we help with implementation, training, and support. So we did it and we got her done.
That's great. So I think we have come to the end of this session. So Deb, this has been a fantastic conversation. Practical, real, and very relevant for the firms. Thank you so much for joining us, and to everyone who's listening. So if you look at your own firm today, where is the inconsistency quietly showing up? Because that's usually where the growth is waiting, right? So thank you so much for being here with us. And this was really a lovely conversation.
Thanks, Maanoj.
Yeah, take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.